I'm Kurt Johnstone and you're watching On The Trial. Today I want to show you an old school skill that is fast becoming forgotten. How to float a wall with BondingCoat plaster. Let's get to it. Now, there's all sorts of situations you might find yourself in when it comes to floating. Ideally, it'd be lovely if these were just brand new block walls and we were just putting a BondingCoat plaster on. But we live in the real world, we've got to get over all sorts of different things. So we've got chases, we've got different backgrounds at different levels, we've got walls at an outer level, and we've got to get it all nice and straight, ready for tile. Now, if I was going over block, you've got the option of using hardwall or sand and cement. Because we're going over old plaster, which we would knock off, but it's that well adhered that it's just destroying the blockwork, so it's staying on, we're going to leave it on. Because we're going over that, we've sealed the walls, so now we've got to use BondingCoat. BondingCoat is for low suction backgrounds. So now these have been sealed with SBR, we're going to use BondingCoat to straighten them out. So it's not just a case of slapping it on the wall, there's a bit of a system to this. The first thing that you can see me doing here is applying the scratch coat. Now you might be tempted not to bother with a scratch coat, but let me tell you, the scratch coat will control the suction from the background. In other words, see where I've got two different backgrounds there? I've got a plastered wall and then I've got cement board next to it. When you put wet plaster on that, it'll dry at different speeds. So the purpose of the scratch coat is to give you a nice even background that's full and flat to help you to work on top of and get a nice job with your top coat. It makes it a lot easier to rule the material off your top coat when it's not drying at different speeds. Before applying the scratch coat, I went round the whole room with the spirit level, checking how level all the walls were. Fortunately, they were all true. If they were out of level, I would have built out any sections that needed it first. Now that this wall's on, I'm going to put the scratches in it before moving on to the next wall. Right, that's the scratch coat on. Now there'll be fellas out there that say, oh, you don't need a scratch coat, you can get it in one coat. I know, I could have probably got that just in one coat, but this is a demonstration for beginners. So, there you go, scratch coat. That will give you now a nice even suction for when you put your floating coat on. Now you don't want to go over it when it's wet, it's not like skimming. We want that to start to set. As soon as that starts getting dark patches on it, just like when you're skimming over bonding, that's ready then for the floating coat. So whilst we're waiting for that to go off, before you float any walls, before you do the scratch coat on any walls that have got chases or holes, and you know, this is where we try to take this sand and cement off, and that's what it did, it just starts wrecking the block work. So what we'll do now is, before we float these sections, I'm going to fill them up with bonding now. I'm going to bog those holes up here. This area, we could build us in coats and coats of bonding, but we're not going to because it'll just take too much. So for this bit, I'll dry line around the top of the window. For the bottom half where we're joining up to it though, we'll get this floated nice and flat. So I'll fill these holes up now, and then these will be ready for the scratch coat when it's set, because it's got accelerator in it. As I mentioned before, I'm using BondingCoat on this job. The reason I'm using BondingCoat is because there's certain areas that have got paint. You can't put any plaster over paint, it just won't stick. So we've sealed the walls with SBR. Because we've sealed them, it's now a low suction background. So the only product you can use for a low suction background is BondingCoat. If these walls were just bare bricks or blocks, it'd be much nicer to use sand and cement. In my opinion, sand and cement is a lovely product to work with. But anyway, that's wishful thinking. We've got to use bonding. Now the problem with bonding is it stays wet for hours. So I've added an accelerator. Bonding's a bit different to sand and cement. Sand and cement will gradually firm up as it's setting. Bonding doesn't work like that. It does what we call flash set. So it's wet and then it just sets rock hard. Hi, that's it. The whole room has been scratch coated. There's Leighton. Say hello, Leighton. There we go, and underneath the window. Now, there's a bit of faffing around to do with this. I need some plasterboard, but it's Sunday. You need a cavity closure in there. We need some plasterboard. We need some plasterboard for the top, so I can't do that little section right now. We've done everywhere else. Now we're going to start floating, putting the top coat on. Right, Let's go and get some lunch. Hello?
Hi.
Hi Lizzie, you okay, sweetheart?
Yeah, I'm just in work, like, to come out for my lunch break.
Yeah.
I went into my car and all my dashboard lights have come on.
Oh no, okay. Whereabouts are you in work's car park?
Yeah, I'm just like near the entrance.
Alright, give us 2 minutes, I'll be there in a minute, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Alright, see you in a sec, love you, bye. Okay, right, so, all the lights are lit up. I've got this great little bit of kit here by Carly, right? All you need to do is find the ODB port, which on this car is located in here. Look at the state of it in here. Just a typical young lady's car. Everyone thinks young women are like all roses and smelling of perfume. Absolute little scruff bag, aren't you? So you download the app onto your phone and you select your car. Now the good thing about this is it just tells you in plain language what's up with your car and what's going on. Even if you don't want to fix the car yourself, at least you'll know exactly what's up with it. And unlike cheap scanners that can only access about 2,000 generic ODB codes, this device can access 150,000 plus codes, with more being added constantly. With Carly, all the updates are included free. Right, so that's that sorted. It just needs a service. I'm going to get back and float these walls. Do you like my bad acting? I've never made the cut in EastEnders, but genuinely though, that is quite a good little bit of kit, just for peace of mind. Anyway, spot on. Right, on with the show. So when working with a back coat plaster, there's 2 different ways of getting a nice, flat, straight, level wall. You can either screed the wall, which we'll do in another video, or you can do it freehand, which is what I'm going to show you now. And then there's 2 more options. You have to decide whether you want to use a feather edge rule, which is okay, or a derby. And I'll show you both, but I actually prefer using a derby. Okay, so that's the wall on. Now, what we need to do now is start ruling it off, and then we start filling out all the slacks or hollows, whatever you want to call them. So, slide down. The longer the rule you can use, the straighter it's going to be. Now, I can only go a crossways of this and not up and down because it doesn't fit in. We can get it close, we can go on a bit of an angle. Now this is the point of a feather edge. This is the whole reason that's pointy. It's so you can get right into the angle. Okay, so you don't use the square side, you're using the pointy side so you can get right in. Yeah, and then you take your excess over to your bucket. This is actually easier to do on a spot board, but there's just not enough room in this bathroom for a spot and stand as well. So this is still part of step 1. You're going to hold the rule in a vertical position and run across the wall horizontally. Then you're going to stand back, you're going to look for any hollows and fill them out. And then you're going to do it again, you're going to repeat it, you're going to run the rule over the wall again, horizontally, filling out any misses, and making sure you come in from both sides. What starts to happen is then, you can see where the hollows are. So, we fill these out, like so. Anywhere you can see, because you can see the difference between where's smooth and where's been slightly ruled. So just fill those in. Now, I'm going to use a smaller rule because it's a pain digging into the other walls. I'm going to cheat with this for now, and then we'll go back to that to check it in a minute. You always want to try and use the longest rules that you possibly can, but the problem is, if the room's a bit too small, then you might end up having to use something smaller.
If it's thicker at the bottom and you notice that you're getting a big build up on the rule at the bottom, and I give it a little flick. I just start curving up the wall a little bit, and it just stops it all dropping off the bottom of the rule and going all over the floor, just like that. See?
Now note at this point, I've only come in sideways, okay? Most of the hollows are filled out. There's still a little section there that I might have to deal with. Now what I'm going to do is, there's no big evident areas where there's any big misses. So now I'm going to bring the wall up as well.
So this is just similar to step one. You're doing exactly the same thing. You're going to start drawing the material, but this time you're going to take it up the wall rather than across the wall. Now it's important to always go up. Never try and do this by pulling down.
Okay, we can see there's just one little area there, maybe a bit there.
Now you might be tempted to think after step two that your wall is perfectly flat, but you may have knocked it out of shape, you see, so you go over it 2 more times, just the same process back over again, and you shouldn't really take much plaster off the wall in these second 2 steps.
Let's check it now and see if there's any hollows.
Be gentle when you're checking this, because it's very easy to push the rule into the plaster and it looks like there's no hollows, but you're not deceiving anybody, only yourself. So just very, very gently hold it and see if you can get a true reading.
Okay, come down here. Let me just show you. Come. So when we hold this feather against the wall, we're looking for any big gaps behind it. Okay, that is flat enough. There's about 1 millimetre there. That's fine. Let's just check it crossways. Yeah, that's fine like that. Okay. Now, what you'll notice is that there's these little marks where the rules just come off the wall. If this was sand and cement, they'd rub out when you rub up the float. What we're going to do is, as this starts to set, we'll give it a nice hard trowel with a little bit of water, and that gets all these little lines, all these little bits, these little scruffy bits gone. The purpose of this is just to rule it off and get it flat. That's all we're trying to do, is rule it off and get it flat, not necessarily beautiful. So these will all come out with a nice little hard trowel at the end. That is just starting to pick up now. It's just starting to set in places now. So we'll get this one on next.
Now this wall's a lot more of a pain in the backside because there's pipes, there's valves, there's cables, there's all sorts of things in the way from when you're ruling. Now you know the process. You've got to go 2 different directions 4 times in total. So as long as you know that you've been over every part, both ways, twice, then you're okay. Does that make sense? Another little tip for you. If you ever find yourself doing a massive wall, let's just say it was 40 square metres, I wouldn't put the whole wall on in one go. I would do, say, 6 to 8 square metres and rule it off, and then another 6 to 8 and rule it off, and I'd work my way along the wall, ruling it off as I go.
For this wall, I'll use the Derby. I prefer using this, I find it easier. When you've seen me using the feather edge, you take the material off, you put it back in the bucket, and then you're reapplying it back on the wall with the handle and trowel. Whereas with this, you've got the handles, you can put stuff back on the wall with this, so it's a lot quicker.
And you'll see me do that just now. Straight away I found a nice big hollow just above that boxing in. See it? And then I'll just squidge the stuff back in a second and take a little bit more from over here. And watch now, I just smeared it back on the wall. See? And then that's it, the hollow's gone.
There you go. How much easier was that? It does make it a bit quicker, but I don't think it's as true as using a feather edge when you're screeding the walls.
I probably should have took that toilet out of the way. It would have made this job a little bit easier not having it in the room, but it did come in quite handy for the amounts of cups of tea and coffee that we were drinking. There used to be a pillar here between two windows because this used to be two separate rooms.
Okay, so now it's time to finish the work. It's all ruled off. It's full and flat and level. But now we've got to finish the surface. There's two ways you can do this. There's the old school way, because a lot of fellas transitioned from using sand and cement where it needed a key. Gypsum-based backcoat plasters don't need keying, but my old fellows still do it. So you get his devil float out now, and he'd start putting figure of eights in the wall, or you can use a float with one little screw in the top corner and do circles, whatever you want. You don't need to do that, okay? Gypsum will just stick to gypsum, so if you're going to skim over the bonding, you don't need to put any key in it at all. This is what British Gypsum recommends you do, and it's how I've always done it. Take a bit of water on your brush, because what you've got is where the rule is dragged off these little high spots, yeah.
Now there's going to be plenty of older boys that have been used to working with sand and cement their whole lives, and they're going to be literally turning in the grave saying, no, you've got to put a key, you've got to use a devil float. All I say is, look, you can do whatever you want. Go and have a look at the back of a bag of bonding, and it'll specifically tell you to just trowel it, and that's it. It's good to be skimmed over. There's no need for the key at all. I just really want to emphasise that, because it was something me and my dad used to lock horns over all the time.
Okay, once the wall reaches this stage, where you've flattened it in, and it's got that nice deep dark colour, it's up to you now. I would usually just skim straight over this, but if you're determined that you still want to give it a key, this is the easiest time to do it. Whilst the bonding's still wet, your float will stick to the bonding. So once it's set like this, it's much easier to do. You want to use a float, a devil float. So you take a float like this. They don't come with screws already in them. You have to do this yourself. So you take your float, you put some drywall screws or some nails, screw them through, and you want it to stick out about 1 millimetre, 2 mil at the most, through the bottom there. There's a few ways of doing this. You can just put one in the corner and that's it, and work in a circular motion, or you can put them all in like this, like a little row of them, 5 or 6 screws, and do big figure of eights. And I wouldn't normally do this. I'm just doing it to keep my dad happy. To keep the old fella happy, keep him off my case. I'm not going to do all the walls, I'm just going to demonstrate here. This, when it's in this condition, all you do is take the float, and just leave a key in it like that. Okay, all over. Interesting little point for you. The last wall that we did, completely set. Second to last wall is also completely set. This wall with the shower, that's almost set. But the very first wall, this one, this is still wet. Now, the reason is because when we've done that wall, we've used fresh, clean water. We've got that on. Then we've mixed up with that dirty water and put this one on. Okay, and then we've mixed up that dirty water and put that wall, this wall here, follow me, this wall, and then we've used that one and put this one. So basically, by the time we've got to this wall, we've used really dirty water. So that's set first. Does that make sense? If you'd washed out and cleaned your bucket out, then it would follow in the same order. But because we've used dirty water and dirtier each mix, it's had the reverse effect and made everything set back to front. Okay, so that you understand now why I'm going the wrong way round. Okay, it's the next morning. Now, I know you guys will be keen to see how these walls came out. If you remember here, we had cement board, we had an old wall, and there was about an inch discrepancy between them. We had to build it out. Now, that come out lovely and straight. This wall. Now, here's the thing. The tolerances, British standard tolerances, you're allowed a 3mm gap over 1.8. So that's basically the length of this level. You're allowed a 3mm gap behind it. That's fine, that's within tolerances. And that's with finishing plaster. We've got 2 coats of plaster. But when you use the 4-step system like I've just showed you, there's no reason why you shouldn't just get it spot on. So if you look here now, perfect. Into the angles, perfect. Make sure it's straight that way, perfect. Remember here, come round this way. Remember here, there was a big hole in the wall. This used to be 2 rooms, so you'd think these 2 walls would be completely different levels now, but as you can see, spot on. This wall, spot on. There you go, look. Show them down there, mate. Perfect. Okay, now, for any keen-eyed viewers, because there's always some that ask questions in the comments, I'm going to clear a few things up quickly. This casing, yes, is not ideal. This needs to get blocked in so it matches outside there. The reason I haven't ripped it out is because I've done some cornice work out here and I don't want to disturb it because it took me a long time when I was in the early 20s and I don't want to ruin my work. So I'll be blocking this in when I board the ceiling. I'll use some plasterboard and we'll go across there and it'll get tiled across. I'll tell you about the ceiling now. The reason there's still a hole there, I don't want to bridge the cavity with solid plaster because I don't want any penetrating moisture. There's going to be a plasterboard that sits on top of that that's going to bring it level with this, so when it's all tiled, the trim will run in line. It'll be very pleasing to the eye. As we've already stated in the video, the reason this isn't plastered is because it's so thick. I can't be bothered doing so many coats, so I'm going to put some plasterboard on there, and this section is all going to be dry lined. But it was Sunday, it's now Monday, we're going to get some plasterboards. That's why that wasn't done. And for anyone that's got a real sharp eye, the reason the ceiling hasn't been boarded yet is because I'm doing a special little feature around the edge of the ceiling. There's going to be lights coming out the side of an island. I couldn't set the island out and plaster it all until the walls were in because I need the margins to be the same, so that has to get done last. So that just hopefully nips all that in the bud before people start saying, oh, why hasn't he done this? Why hasn't he done that? So there you go. If you use the 4-step system, when you're floating walls freehand, there's no reason why you won't get the walls nice and flat and plump and true. Alright guys, see you on the next one.
Come tend the garden with me. We have so many seeds to sow. When the harvest comes in, it will be time to share what we have grown. We were having the time of our lives when we started. Everything was groovy.